As if TSM's conflict of interest couldn't get any worse. So before, you guys had heard, obviously, previously, of Lena, the previous president of TSM, also being the boyfriend of Doublelift, who was also a player on TSM at the same time, negotiating contracts in earshot of Doublelift of current players on TSM. Yes, it gets even worse, in fact. So, Swift Media Entertainment, the parent company of TSM, who also owns Icon Talent Agency, is all owned by one particular person, Andy Dinh, aka Reginald. Now, if that doesn't spell out conflict of interest to you, I don't know actually what will. And in fact, I don't think you know the term of what conflict of interest actually means. Now, that may not mean conflict of interest in a legality term, right? Because lawyers like to dick around like that. But it does mean it in the colloquial terms. And this actually is the biggest conflict of interest I've ever seen, I think, in the history of esports itself. I think I'm going to say that with some authority, given that I've been following League of Legends esports basically since the inception, and I've been following Counter-Strike kind of on and off since 1.6, etc. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, so, TSM is owned by Swift Media Entertainment. Let me pull you up something that I found. All of you can actually find this, in fact. Here is the business, it's essentially the license or application of Swift Media Entertainment. Now, notice the registered address of the business itself, 5340 Ala Road. Also notice the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO, Andy Dinh, Reginald. That's weird. We all know that TSM is owned by Reginald. Oh, well, now you know that Reginald also owns Swift Media Entertainment. So he owns the parent company and he owns the other company that it's essentially attached to. Now, that should tell you immediately that there's something a little bit fishy going on. Now, to be fair, though, to back them up, because I know a little bit about business, because it's kind of what I do in my day job. By the way, I'm not a fucking lawyer, so take some of this with a grain of salt, but I feel like I know what the fuck I'm talking about, at least here, is that you separate different entities because you want to have different taxes that are associated with different businesses, and so therefore your taxes are better. You can get certain like different tax breaks, etc. And it's just a whole lot neater as far as the businesses are concerned. And also you don't have pools of money coagulating with other pools of money. But I think we'll get a little bit into that, and maybe why the legality of this particular thing is a little bit fishy in and of itself as well, because there are multiple people working for multiple companies that are owned under the same parent company. And I don't know if that's technically illegal or not, but I assume that gets a little bit fuckery when it comes to the entire tax situation. So now you're thinking, okay, well, all right, so Reginald owns Swift Media Entertainment. He certainly owns TSM. Here is TSM's documentation. Oh, remember that address that I told you to think about? 5340 Ala Road. 5340 Ala Road. By the way, don't fucking go to this location. Like, saying, TSM fans, everybody in esports, just let it go, right? And it's not like I'm fucking doxing them, because they are a business, right? They are owned and operated, and their shit is out there in the public. So, like, it's not like I'm doing anything fucking crazy. But, like, yes, don't go there. respect their privacy, etc. Like, don't get fucking out of hand with this shit, right? But that's weird. Swift Media Entertainment, Solo Mid Corporation, both have their business registered at the same fucking place, also at the same suite. Oh no, but they don't talk to each other. No, there's no way, Izento. They're just completely separate, dude. It's just completely separate corporate entities. They don't talk to each other. Nothing's going crazy, man. Well, let's talk about this shit then. Yeah? So, first I want to talk about maybe the talent that is represented at Icon. So let me go ahead and pull you up a roster. 50% of TSM's, or rather Icon's talent that they represent, either plays for TSM esports teams, or they represent TSM as a content creator. That's insane. That's such a ridiculous amount of people, amount of clientele, right? Something's fucking weird about that, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these guys here. Choco Taco, PUBG, pretty popular guy. Hiko, y'all know him, if you follow CSGO and I guess Valorant now. Very popular guy. He is signed with Icon. Odd one, y'all know the OG. Come on, dog. You have Wardell, Valorant as well too. Very popular guy. I believe he was in CS:GO as well. You have Leffen, one of the god. Well, no, he wasn't a god, right? I think he's like, what does he even call it? He's like the unspoken god or some shit like that. I don't know the FGC. I don't know. Keep on going. Several different content creators, etc. Sub Rosa, very popular guy as well. Valorant, he was previously in CSGO. So you have all these people that are represented by Icon, and yeah, they are on TSM's content creation team, or they are on TSM's esports teams, one of several. They have people in Rainbow Six, League of Legends, I think Dota, some of them are represented in, Valorant, obviously. So they're all over the fucking place. So let's get into the conflict of interest, which was addressed by General Manager Damian Skoxilis. We're gonna say it's Skoxilis. I don't know. I think I'm fucking this up. I can't determine what language this last name is, actually. I'm usually pretty good with languages. But this is by Izento, by Adam Fitch. By the way, shout out to Adam Fitch. Really good journalist. Now I believe he works at Hitmarker. But yeah, Izento's article here. By the way, fucking Izento. Better fucking appreciate that. A guy from America is saying your name correctly, I think. You goddamn British fucks. So anyways, so over here, Adam Fitch had ended up addressing this idea of conflict of interest, given that TSM is owned by parent company Swift, and how, they're all under one Kahoot thing. And so guess what? This Damien guy says, quote, "There's a lot of interaction, but Icon is a totally separate legal entity that operates under a specific California state talent agency license." Yeah, of fucking course, dude. You can't call yourself a talent agency if you don't have your own talent agency license. Like, it's pretty fucking obvious. You're stating the obvious and you're diverting, but okay. So, Skoxilis assured Izento, "We will be negotiating contracts and opportunities that come from TSM, but we will also come to heads at certain junctures. Our fiduciary duty is to the talent that we represent and not to TSM, nor to the parent company. We all exist in this ecosystem, but we are separate and we will be negotiating against TSM in some cases. From a high-level standpoint, we call it the separation of church and state. Jesus, do you really want to use that example? Not like church and state have been entangled since the beginning. Anyways, TSM is team-oriented. We are talent-oriented. Any icon influencer is not beholden to be signed over at TSM and vice versa. Oh, that's weird, but 50% of your fucking representation is signed with TSM. That's strange. That's really weird. So let's get into this separation of fucking church and state. Well, first of all, TSM staff are employed at Icon. According to LinkedIn, Kevin Wallace is named Director of Partnership for Icon and also holds the same title at TSM. Jocelyn Parmenter is VP of Brand Partnerships at Icon, while also being the Senior Director of Brand Partnerships at TSM. Dylan Watkins is the Partnership Manager at Icon, also holding the same title at TSM. And, of course, as stated previously, the CEO of Swift Media Entertainment, the parent company of TSM and Icon, is Andy Dinh. Icon's own business is also registered under the same address. So let me show you this, in fact. Let's go ahead. Open this shit up here. Icon Media Talent. Oh, what address? 5340 Alla Road, Suite 100. Oh, let's go back. Swift Media. 5340 Alla Road, Suite 100. Oh, TSM. 5340 Alla Road, Suite 100. Oh, I wonder what the fucking link is between all this shit. That's weird. Now, when you look and you see, well, there's no CEO, there's no nothing. Maybe it's not actually owned by Reginald. Maybe, maybe there's some modicum of hope for TSM fans. No. So the reason why there's not anyone listed as CEO or anyone in board of directors is because this branch of Icon Media Talent, LLC, he created a branch. So this is the actual branch, which is located in California. The main hub is located in Delaware. The significance of Delaware means that, first of all, Delaware is a tax haven for a lot of corporations. A lot of Fortune 500 companies actually have their corporations stated in Delaware, even though they technically aren't in Delaware. The way that you can get around this in business terms, essentially, is that if you have a business in Delaware, you don't have to pay income tax. But, and I say that loosely because you have to pay income tax in the state that you reside in. So you really don't get away with it. It's just that you get the benefit of having your business operate in a different state, but not having to pay that extra tax. So you don't get like double dipped, essentially. On top of that, and this is the most important thing, is that your board of directors, your CEO, and your stakeholders are all private. They are not shared with anyone whatsoever. So the public sites that I have here, you cannot find this about TSM, and you cannot find it about a lot of large companies. So it makes it more difficult for you to actually track down the paper trail of who owns what and what owns who. So, but as we already know, 5340 Alla Road says that, well, this initial company was registered at this place, which is also the CEO owns both of these other different companies that are registered there as well. So it doesn't fucking take a genius to figure out that who owns Icon Talent Agency is probably 99.999% likely to be fucking Reginald. So I don't know why he didn't think of any of this previously beforehand, of just maybe he thought he was clever, of just, oh, haha, I'm going to hide, people never know that I'm the mastermind behind Icon Talent Agency. Yeah, good job, bro. So now you ask yourself, well, what's the big deal, dude? What, he owns all these different companies, so what? they're all different legal entities, as this fucking Damien guy says. Well, let me ask you, why don't you trust big corporations? Just you as the viewer. Yes, you. Why don't you trust big corporations? Why I don't trust big corporations, and I assume the same thing for you too, is that they can create big sweeping changes, just societal changes almost. They can influence governments. I hope TSM can't do that. I mean, I guess they kind of can in the esports landscape, right? When you think of Riot Games or whatnot. So actually, that's bigger than you think. They control multiple different businesses and sectors at the same time. So they can influence change how they see fit to benefit all of their corporations and all of their businesses at the same time. That's why you don't want a fucking monopoly. Because monopolies are bad. We know monopolies are bad. We know big corporations are bad. So apply that same fucking logic that you know is true then to TSM. Sure, it's a smaller bubble. Sure, it's esports. Yes, I know it's not controlling anything in government, or it's not controlling large sectors of society, etc. But it is controlling our small bubble of what we consider our space. So why would you not apply that same logic to fucking TSM in terms of esports? It's the same exact thing. Why would you want a big corporation to control large sectors of esports? It's completely asinine. You have to have cognitive dissonance in order to think otherwise. So, Icon itself, and I already told you about their business statement and whatnot, and how they are owned at the same location. They have the same residential business as TSM, and also Swift Media Entertainment. All these different organizations, which are just essentially shell companies. It's a little confusing, right? It's a little confusing, but this is what they do in order to take your eyes off of, exactly what's exactly going on. This is the same fucking tactics that the big companies use. This is no different than that. So there is something called the California Cartwright Act. And I found this in my research. And this is something different. Actually, no, we won't get to that. We're going to get to California law, subsection 1700.40b, which states, and this is something to do with talent agencies, which states that no talent agency may refer an artist to any person, firm, or corporation in which the talent agency has a direct or indirect financial interest for other services to be rendered to the artist, including but not limited to, and it says a whole bunch of legacy shit, but it also says business management and personal management. So consider that, and consider the 50% basically talent that Icon has for TSM, or as content creators for TSM. Think of that in referring artists to. Now, this may not be technically true of the law or whatnot, because the talent agency has to refer people to the other entity, right? Maybe. And I'm not sure how this works, right? I'm not a fucking lawyer, like I said. But certainly, if TSM reaches out to a player, a young player that isn't signed with a team, and says, hey, you want to join TSM? And they're like, yeah, I'd love that. But I don't have like a lawyer. I don't know how these contracts work and stuff. It's like, I know just the guy for you. And so they recommend them to fucking Icon. But Icon is obviously owned by TSM. And these young players don't know this shit. And so you inherently have the 1700.4b scenario, but it's happening in reverse of the necessarily the production company, I guess, that would be considered, right? And I talk further about this more in my article. Go ahead and read the article if you haven't. It's 1900 words, which is why I decided to do this video, because maybe you just want to listen to me talk about the overarching idea of it. But yeah, maybe it happens in the reverse aspect. It's still the same ridiculous bullshit and the certain trickery that happens. And it's completely fucked up, dude. And then we get to the California Cartwright Act, which says, and this is a tangent, but it's the California Cartwright Act says that tying is illegal. And tying is considered as the act of selling a product or service on the condition that the buyer agrees to also buy a different product or service. So essentially, that means that whenever you hear about these esports deals of, two players being tied together to a deal to be sold to another team, or, multiple players, etc., that might actually be illegal. And there's actually precedent in Hollywood for this happening, and a judge citing that people could sue these talent agencies over the Cartwright Act. Now, that might also be with stipulation that all of the people or some of the people in that package deal didn't want that to happen. And oftentimes I think in esports, like, players are oftentimes fine with it. They're just like, oh, well, this esports organization is disintegrating, or they can't afford us, or etc. Or maybe we'll be held in contract prison. We would rather be sold to this other team, But I think there could be some instances in history to where we could look back and be like, I wonder if that was actually illegal, Now, another thing is the American Bar Association. Yeah, I know. I had to look up a lot of law shit about this, guys. Like, this was like really kind of difficult to do. Now I know what journalists talk about when they're just like, this shit is hard. I'm like, damn, and I'm just not even journalist. I'm like a lazy journalist, or I'm just an expert guy that knows how to fucking Google, essentially. But there's something fucked up called the waivable conflict of interest, which says that, essentially, and in a nutshell, and I might be getting this wrong, but I think I'm getting this right, is that you could sign away, if you're a player and a talent agency comes up to you and says, hey, here's a waivable conflict of interest, and it might be termed something else, I don't know, but it's, it's probably like a 20-page document, and they say, hey, a conflict of interest between this talent agency and some other entities could exist. Just sign to say that that is a possibility, or that it exists. And you as a player, and you as a 17-year-old or whatever the fuck, just like, yeah, all right, whatever, let me sign that shit. All right, so how much money am I making? Like, that's so insidious, right? Is that not taking advantage of someone or their ignorance of the law? Like, that's ridiculous. And I don't jive with that shit at all. So I think Icon, the talent agency itself, is taking advantage of people, of players, of the actual industry, and of people that are actually blind to how these companies operate, or rather how TSM operates, how Reginald operates. And I find it absolutely fucking disgusting. And I also find it strange that no one's actually talking about this. And I would implore actual journalists to dig further deep into this, maybe get some contract deals of what might be unfair or might be fair, or to compare it and contrast it against something of market values, etc. Because I feel like this is going down a really dark road of a esports organization that also owns a talent agency, that also owns multiple different entities in esports. I find that there's something that's going to go wrong eventually, and maybe if not now, eventually it will happen. And I think we should at least try and put a stop to this before someone actually seriously gets hurt in terms of, the monetary aspect or monetary prospects of it.